It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm really glad that I was invited to deliver the lecture tonight. And may the peace of our Master, Jesus, be with all of us. The flagship of the Spiritist doctrine is reincarnation. And when the Master Kardec and the Professor Rivail asked to the illuminated entities, what is the aim of the incarnation of the spirits? The spirits answered, a long answer, but I'm going to short it, to evolve, to leave the present incarnation better than when we entered it. In other words, to evolve, to progress. That's why we have unlimited number of reincarnations, because we reincarnate as many times as necessary to evolve enough to go to the next step. And in the path of this evolution, we're going to find many doors. The door, of course, is symbolic. I'm going to read the original text of Luke 13, verse 22 to 35. However, I'm going to just read what the Jesus words, 24 to 30. Make every effort to enter through the narrow gate or the narrow door, because many, I tell you the truth, will try to enter and will not be able to. Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, you will stand outside knocking and pleading, "Sir, open the door for us." But he will answer, "Don't know you or where you come from." Then you say, "We ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets." But he will reply, "I don't know you or where you come from. Away from me, all you evildoers." There will be weeping there and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, but you yourselves thrown out. People will come from east and west, and north and south, and will take their places at the feast in the kingdom of God. Indeed, there are those who are last who will be first, and first will be last. So it doesn't sound like the real deal. We have always, as we read all the Spiritist scriptures, all the books, especially in the interpretation of the gospel, the meaning behind the words, the spirit of the letter. Door. What exactly is a door? A door means the point established between two environments, right? A pathway that I can go through to reach from one stage to the next, to one point to another. And as we evolve, it doesn't happen for free. We don't do this just playing, just living day by day. We have to put effort to do it. And the next step is always, invariably, harder than the previous one. But why? Couldn't be easier? Of course it can be easier. But if you learn the lesson fully in this current stage, the next stage will be easier, because we're going to start it over again. But founded on the foundation that we built ourselves, our own progress, our own attained evolution. So the next step will be always firmer, steadier than the current one, and so on. So there will not be difficulty we're never going to find a real barrier to our progress. We're going to find some challenges. And these challenges are proportionately to the effort that we put to overcome them. There will never be a barrier, an obstacle. When we think of the word obstacle itself, it's the point that we have to revalue our resources to see what we need to transpose that obstacle. In other words, to meet that challenge and beat it. So the doors only will determine the end of one season, of one stage, and where the next stage begins. The next step will begin. So let's move to the next. This is the path of light. Our Spiritist Center in Long Branch is called Path of Light. Why? Because that's how we must see the life. A path that was made to us by God. God gave us already the path paved for us to walk through it. But some of us prefer to take shortcuts. If we observe the pathway that God offers us, we're gonna notice that it has everything that we need. Along the pathway, we're gonna see curves left and right, ups and downs, mountains, valleys, forests. We're gonna see a lot of beautiful landscape along the way, which is nature. God is perfect in every sense. Once we try to get away from the path of life, which lead us to the light, we're gonna hurt, we're gonna suffer. Every time we try to get away from the path of life, the truth, we suffer, we feel pain. Why? Because it's the law. The path is perfect for our walk. It's paved already. But again, it's up to us to use fully our free will and make our own choices. We can choose the path that God planned to us and walk through it, and we can choose the shortcuts according to our own free will. So this symbolic figure of the door, there may be simple doors in our path, in our way, in our lives. Simple doors, those, as I mentioned, that just mark the limited from between the current step and the next stage. Most of the doors will describe the same way to walk. We have to elevate ourselves in a certain sense, in knowledge, in effort, in many factors that will add to sum up to our, let's say, to give us a new grade of evolution, to finally reach the door for the next step. Most of the doors will be like this in our lives. And most of the time also, especially as kids in the school, we will face doors that keep the light inside. So we have to be prepared to open the door. Once we open that door, we'll see the light. We reach the light of the next step. Doors that lead to another door, and to another door, and so on. The grades, the stages in life where we have to transpose short steps to go to the next step. Doors, gates, they are meant to keep us outside the next step, because there will be it will be necessary invitation to get into that next step. Doors to keep us outside from where we are not yet prepared to be in. Doors to keep us inside because we are not prepared to remain outside. We took some wrong steps. We made some wrong decisions. When we end up in difficulties, in trouble. So we are kept inside for reflection, temporarily, to get ourselves prepared to enjoy freedom again. Freedom of choice. Doors that keep really safe secrets inside. Sometimes these doors are not for us. We just pass by them and go to the next step. Doors that are not necessarily a door, a barrier, something that we have to remove. Situations where we get to a certain point that we face a doorway through which we can envision the next step already. And doors that tells us that we reached a much better place, a more enlightened place where we can envision happiness. And many other types of doors, but there will be always the same concept, a stage, a point where we realized that is the end of one phase and the beginning of another phase. Let's review his words again. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. The idea that Jesus wants to give us is exactly the one expressed in the story of the little red fish. Who does not know the story of the little red fish?
I don't know. Little red fish.
The story of the little red fish is part of the introduction of one of the André Luiz books. I'll summarize the story. There was a lake, a lagoon, where a large community of fishes live forever, and they never went out because there was a little gate, a screen that gave access to a creek. However, nobody ever trespassed that screen, that grade. And there was this little fish, a red little fish. He was humble, small, skinny, fibby, and he was always scared of the other big fishes, always running from the big fishes that tried to devour him, to use him as a food. But he himself had to hunt for his own food, like every fish, like fishes do. I was never a fish, but I know that that's true. This little fish, one day, running away from the big fishes, he entered to some narrow places between the rocks and found one small passage that himself, he was a tiny red little fish. He lost some scales trying to squeeze himself through the little passage and the rocks to the grate that led him to the creek, and the creek led him to the river to the sea. Now we can imagine, and André Luiz described in beautiful words what he has seen along this swimming to the ocean. He saw a big and more beautiful sky out there, trees, different types of plants, things that he and all the other fishes never imagined that could exist. And then he found the ocean. It was a long way that he swam. Then he started making friends also. Another community of fish that looked like him. And he was very friendly, so it was easy for him to make friends. And the time passed, and then he realized that his happiness would be not complete if he could never share all news that he learned, all this world, this marvelous world that he met now. And then he decided to turn back and go back to the lagoon and tell all the fish what is out there, what it's expected for, what they can find, what is available for them, God's gift. Then he went back. He swam back through the river to the creek, and then again through the narrow place in the grid that was limiting the lagoon, and then some rocks, and then he finally found again that community of fishes. Like we returned to Brazil years later, and we are happy because we are there. We go to see friends, old family members, and some of them not even noticed that we were away for some time, right? We are so happy because we are there again to see old people, to see old faces, and they didn't even notice that we left. And that was what happened to him. But he went to the city mayor, a big fish, a fat fish, and he persuaded him to give him a place and a time for a speech in public to tell the community about all the wonders that he found out there. Initially, the city mayor fish, laughed on him, but he ended up allowing. And then he had his space. He described what he saw over there to the community of fishes, and some start laughing at him, and they start saying, "Oh, but it's such a small hole that you got to swim through to get out of here. That's impossible. There's no such a thing." And he said, "You got to enter through the narrow gate. Do all your effort. Strive to go through the little hole, and then you can make to the other side." And he ended up gaining some eggs and some booze, and then he left. Really sad. Nobody followed him because no one was about to put some effort towards their own improvement. And then he went back to his new family now in the ocean, away from there. And later times in the future, he received the news that there was a very severe drought, and the lagoon ran dry, and all that community died. So that's the story of the little fish. He had to sacrifice himself for what he believed that was better for him, for his future, to find the big world out there. And he even he went back in his path and brought the news to those who he loved, but even so, he was completely disregarded. Well, that's how it happens. This is the classic description of the narrow gate. We have the easy way that is full of curves. Some go straight to the really easy way with a flat land. There's no effort to climb at least one step up. It's just walk forward, follow the crowd, and go straight to hell. Some even put some effort to go up and ascend, but in the wrong path. But they know that they are wrong because the conscience tell them. And they look forward, they look back, but they keep going on the wrong direction, conscious of what they're doing, and they end up, of course, over there. But those who can make it through the narrow door, they make it to the heights. And the heights is happiness. And God is right there in this classic description of the narrow gate. So here we are now, before this moment, facing the moment of the decision. We see multitude of people every day, just living one day after another, waking up in the morning, sleeping again at night, and go on and on and on with their life without any major accomplishment, any aim, any plan for their own lives. When most of us, when we left our country, or when we leave our country to go to another country, what do we take? We take the least necessary, of course, because we're not traveling by bus. We don't own a bus. We don't own a ship. We don't own an airplane. We pay the ticket for a very small individual place for us to go. So we have to carry the least possible. What do we take? Only things that we know that we're gonna need over there. I know people who carry 3 suitcases and lots of things that think will be necessary and they end up wearing not everything that they take, but they can take that. So we take only what we know that we're gonna be using there, things that will be necessary for our stay, temporary or permanent, but we only take what we really need, what really matters, what it's really important to us, and what is allowed also. Because when we depart this world to the next world, when we leave our physical device here, we cannot take many things. We can take only things that belong to the next dimension, those invisible things, those untouchable things, those things that we carry in our heart, right? But most people don't have these plans, don't have a life plan. They just live day by day, and they follow the crowd. And the crowd tend to take the easy way. The easy way is the descendant way, because not even to lift your foot to the next step, you need effort. Just walk, just follow the crowd, and you go straight to hell, straight to the fire. But when we have a plan for life, we know that this is the way that will lead us to the progress that we have to attain to go to the next level. And in this picture, of course, is symbolized by the cross, which is the greatest symbol of all history, the symbol of the greatest sacrifice of all, the one who gave his own life to leave the lesson to us. In the modern life, that's what happens. Like I said before, people just follow the crowd. Majority of us still follow the crowd. The way we dress, the way we speak, the way we like things, the way we see things, we follow the crowd. If we don't follow the crowd, especially in the early ages of our evolution, in each incarnation we see perfectly defined our stage as a childhood, as a teenage, as adulthood, in the elderlyhood, especially in our teen years. We have to fit in. We have to be able to keep up with our peers. And then we follow the crowd more than ever. And then as we grow old, we start thinking with our own brain. We leave behind lots of concepts that are not necessary for our evolution. We start seeing life in a more mature way. And then we start following the straight way that leads us to a better place. I'm not mentioning when I mention the teenage, I'm not talking about the years, the teen years from 13 to 19. I'm talking about the mental teenage, because we know teenagers at their 50s, at their 60s, as we know mature people on their 9, 10, 11 or less. I have to be very clear because I want to be everybody's friend. I apologize for being written in Portuguese. However, I'm going to translate. This is the width, the relative width of the doors in a world of trials and expiations, where the majority of the spirits, incarnate spirits, most of us, tend to the wider door. The spirits, like some of us, we still give in to passions and vices. Exactly the opposite that happens in the more evolved worlds. Still in the world of trial and expiation, the minority of the spirits choose the narrow door, which means that combat to defeat the evil that we face in life, our tendencies, and to practice charity. About charity, we could speak another night, another couple of hours at least. So we're going to jump forward. And this is exactly what happens. The opposite happens in the relative width of the doors in a world of regenerated spirits, which is this step that our planet, the human race, incarnate and discarnate, is going through now. The minority of the spirits in this type of world will choose the narrow door, and the majority spirits now can go through the wide door, because the wide door in a world of regenerated spirits is wider, is the one that leads to perfection.
So it's basically the contrary. The wide door on earth, the wide door on earth is actually the easier door that leads us to the vices and
to the destruction,
and
like Jesus said. Right. In the worlds more evolved, the majority of the spirits tend to follow the right path, to make the right choice. So here we are. We have to choose now. Now that we know that the narrow door leads us to perfection, and the wide door leads us to destruction. It's still symbolizing the things in earth. What is the roadmap that we have to carry to make sure that we are walking in the right direction? The roadmap that was brought to us for free, was given for free to us, but for him cost his own life. The Gospels. Jesus brought us the roadmap, the recipe, how to be happy, how to win in life, how to be prepared to the next step, how to take the most advantage of the current incarnation to progress, to evolve, to be ready for the next step, for the next incarnation. The roadmap, I call that gospel. And gospel, it's brought to us through religions. And religions are symbolized, most of them, the Christian religions, by the cross. And the other and this is narrow. You can see that it's a little narrow. The other path is the earthly life, symbolized there by what? With rich and drinks, all the earthly pleasures. So we have to make this decision. And once we make this decision, that's it. We are there, right? No, we are not there yet. This is the moment, the door that we pass through, the narrow gate, the narrow door, that we attain to the other side. Now, the terms shows us, we show through this pass, through this door, that we made the decision in good. We made the decision of do right from now on. I'm going to strive to pass through the narrow door. Once I made it to the other side, I'm in the right path. It's just begun. It has just begun. Now the effort is to keep ourselves in the path. That's a symbol of those who attained, passed to the other side, but it didn't make yet, didn't achieve the progress. When do we display signs of achieved progress? When we are decided not to go back. When we don't do again the same mistakes that we did in the past. Don't make the same mistakes again. We can make new mistakes because we are not perfect yet. However, make the same mistakes again. It's a display that we didn't achieve, we didn't attain that progress yet. And we have to evolve in many different ways. There's this passage, where is here? Once the owner of the house gets up and closes the door, will you stand outside knocking and pleading, "Sir, open the door for us"? But he will answer, "Don't know you, I don't know you, or where you come from." Then you will say, "We ate and drank with you, and you taught in our streets." But he will reply, "I don't know you or where you come from. Away from me, all you evildoers." We are there already. We disincarnated. We died from this present incarnation, and we are in the spiritual world now. Let's picture the situation. We are not exactly bad people because we study the Spiritist doctrine. We put our best effort towards making better every day. But we are not perfect yet. We still have our past claiming on us. We still have a lot to review in our file, our divine file. We still have open accounts to liquidate. And we will not reach higher worlds, more elevated worlds, if we're not prepared, because I'm at the door, symbolically says Jesus. This guy, it's not welcome. Why not? Because he's fake. If we disincarnate now, and we are now free spirits, what are spirits? Nothing but discarnate people. I died today. What am I going to be tonight? A discarnate Andre, right? Discarnate me, myself. I'm not an angel. I'm not one spirit, a ghost, or any other denomination that we can give. I am myself disincarnated. I am a discarnate spirit.
I wasn't sure if that was a black sheep. And then I asked him and he said it's a woman. She's I'm like, okay.
Right.
It's
those who prefer not to believe in reincarnation, in deny this natural law of reincarnation, they don't know, they don't want to know that they have a past. They have open accounts in their divine account to liquidate, still to pay. And they reach heaven like that, right? Wolves dressed as sheep. But in the spiritual world, we cannot lie. We can lie for those that are below our grade of evolution, not for those who are above. And those who are above us are the ones who will help us to evolve. Those who will push us up, who will give us a hand and help us continue. And they know when we are wearing the wrong garment, the garment that doesn't belong to us. It doesn't fit. So we don't want to look like that, right? The narrow door, our doors, we don't have to dispute it with somebody else because it's one individual achievement. The inner enlightenment, it's our own commitment. It's untransferable. It's indivisible. We don't have to be concerned in disputed places. There are places for everyone in heaven, but we have to make it through the narrow door. We have to lose pounds of vices, our unjustifiable imperfections. We have to shed all those pounds. We have to leave on earth what belongs to earth, because Jesus told us another story. It's easier, we see a camel go through the eye of a needle than a rich person attain to heaven, symbolically, right? So we have to leave on earth what belongs to earth. We cannot be an earthly person if we want to be a divine spirit. Also, there is no easy way to transpose. We have to walk with our own legs. Nobody can do that for us. No machine or other means of transportation will take us there. We have to walk ourselves. We have to know every step of the way, because that way was meant to be ours. Again, we cannot be fashionable. We have to be humble. Earthly things doesn't matter in the spiritual world. And the next step of evolution, we cannot be as much concerned with the way we look, but we have to concern the way God will see us. And we have to lose those pounds because we are swelled with imperfections. I'm not talking about belly fat. I'm talking about moral fat. I'm talking about those vices that we choose to carry. We choose to feed our soul with this type of imperfections every day. So we have to shed these pounds. Otherwise, we're not going to make it before, again, the pathway to the height, it's narrow, demands sacrifice, and it's individual sacrifice. Nobody will do for us. Nobody can walk the path that we have to walk. Nobody will carry the weight that we have to bear. Nobody will leave in earth things that are inside of us. That's our individual commitment. It's our sacrifice. We have to carry the weight of our crosses. This is all about this transition, the planetary transition that we hear now every day in every Spiritist center. But why only Spiritist centers? No. We hear, in other words, in another type of expression, but mostly in the Spiritist centers all over the world, because it's where the high entities find the ground prepared to the new seed, and then the seed flourishes. It's an individual sacrifice. If we want to make it to the other side, to trespass this door, we want to make through the narrow door. It's easy, but we have to follow guidelines. We cannot choose the path that it's man-made, full of man-made regulations, because men tend to keep themselves in the comfort zone. We tend to choose the easiest way, the narrow door. It's not what I want, because that demands sacrifice. We tend to choose the wide door, the wide roads. How many times we are stuck in traffic, then we start cursing and saying that there should be more lanes in this avenue. There should be more lanes in the George Washington Bridge. 4 or 5 lanes is just not enough. We should have 10 lanes. We don't want to make a little sacrifice of pedaling a bicycle or walk sometimes a couple blocks to take the train. We want to drive our cars, especially us from New Jersey, right? we like to drive our cars. Why? Because it's easy. It's an earthly things. And in New Jersey, we like to be heavy because we don't walk as much as New Yorkers. But it's a sacrifice that we have to do ourselves. It's the choice that we make. When we make the right choice, we enjoy life. When we take the shortcut, when we get a little bit off the path of life, we suffer. So keep one thing in mind. Every time I feel pain, I got to stop and reflect. What am I doing wrong? Something's wrong. If something's wrong, I have to reevaluate my walk and go back to the right path. Because once you get away from the path that God determined to us, the path that Jesus came with all that sacrifice to give us for free, we suffer. Every time we get away from the right, we suffer. Because this is what we want. We want to be there. We want to attain the world of perfection. It will take some time, but now we have the roadmap. We know how to do, and we know what to do. The thing is, we have to listen to Him all the time. We have to be aware. We have to try to find always the spirit of the letter behind the words. And we have to face life as a simple thing. It's not complicated. Every time we go humble and simple, we find the narrow door easier to trespass. And that's my message for this night. Thank you all for the attention.